1 month ago, relentless rain and floodwaters swept through southwest Minnesota, marking the worst flooding event ever recorded in my county.
Now, to help visually show how much rain we had here at the farm, I have set up a bunch of different water bottles, and we're gonna say that one water bottle equals 1 inch of precipitation. So right now here at this table, I have set up 27 different water bottles to show and to demonstrate our 27 inches of annual average precipitation that we receive here in southwest Minnesota, where my farm is. Now at the table, I have switched around our 27 inches of rain. As you can tell, I have them split up into two different sides. This side, this has 13 water bottles. This is that 13 inches of rain we received the week of June 22nd, which is about half of our annual precipitation that we receive in just 1 year at the farm. That all came within 1 week's time. Now, to give you a little precursor before we actually head out into one of the fields, today is August 6th. So it's been 45 days since we had that big, heavy 13 inches of rain. And since that, we've only had 4 inches of precipitation total. So right now, I'm actually walking down into our drainage ditch here, which, as you can tell, there is plenty of room for excess water. And I need to show you this because by the time we get out to the field, I think you guys would be surprised to see what the crops are looking like. And if you're still just a little bit skeptic about me saying it's been the wettest spring and the wettest June ever in my county, well, I have one map I need to show you on my computer. Okay, I'll try to make this quick. What the map's saying is if there's a number like 130 on a county, that means in June of 2024, that specific county had the wettest June on record out of the last 130 years. Now, before we head out to the field, I want to show you guys we have a disc sharpener here today who's going to be sharpening some of our disc blades here on the ripper. So I'll come up here, show you guys what that process is going to look like. Here we are. This is Aaron. He's got the disc sharpener here. We're going to be start sharpening. He finished sharpening the front blades. Now we're going to start sharpening here on the back set. You kind of want to explain to the guys what you're doing here today?
Yeah, we're just rolling the blades out with this roller, and what it does is it just puts a new taper on the end of the blade, and you just start a little ways back and it actually stretches the blade out so it'll be a hair bigger after you're done than when you start. And yeah, rolling works a lot better than grinding just because you're not taking any metal off, and
we're making it sharper so that way when we're going through the cornstalk residue this fall, it's just going to make it sharper and cut the ground a lot smoother, and hopefully probably not have as much horsepower with the tractor, I think, too.
Right, yep.
Right. So here you can see, here's the first disc blade he's going to get started on. It's got a dull edge here, not sharp at all to my finger. I'll let him crank this thing and get started now. Aaron just got the first one done here. Show you guys up close here on the blade. It's got that nice sharp edge now. Actually, yeah, really sharp. Almost cut my hand actually on that one. And it's a lot cheaper doing this option. How much do you think it's gonna cost today, Aaron?
For the whole thing?
Yeah, for the whole thing.
This is $300 for 7-shank ripper.
$300 for 7-shank ripper. I'm almost certain last fall we lost one of these, or it was one of these other larger discs on here, and a brand new disc I'm almost certain is $250. So this is just something we do every year. Thought you guys might find interesting. I'll link Aaron's website down below in the description, but now let's head out to the fields. Sorry, I got distracted by that disc sharpener guy. I personally think that's kind of cool. Not sure if every farm does that. Just thought I'd show it, include his information down below. But we're heading out to the field, so let's go. We're out at the first cornfield that we're checking. Coincidentally, this is the first cornfield that we planted. This field's pattern tile, but we did have one spot that drowned it out. So I stubbed in about 3 acres of soybeans here. The soybeans actually don't look too bad. It definitely looks weird with corn and soybeans growing in the same field, but the soybeans have a long ways to go if these are gonna put any sort of pods on them, but mostly just wanted them out there for a cover crop to stop the weeds. I should also mention that not all of the crops in our area got planted this spring. We did get all of our corn and soybean acres planted, but like across the road here, this is our neighbor's field. He actually seeded some oats out there about 3 weeks ago. Don't ask me about oats. I don't know much about oats at all. I'm guessing he might just burn them down with chemical or work them under. Don't ask me. I'm not the person to know. But I'm gonna take you guys to the back side of this field now. I'm gonna make the walk back there to show you one very interesting thing that's happened back there since the flood. The first thing to notice out in this cornfield, I'm 6'3". Here's the tassel on the corn plant. It's not much taller than I am. This year, we have a lot of short corn. We don't actually have short stature corn. We didn't pay for like a short stature corn system. This is actually supposed to be tall corn, like 8, 10, 12 foot tall corn. But because of how cool and wet we were in June, mostly because of how cool we were, all of our nodes, so the nodes are between each individual leaf, like this would be a node, and there is a bunch of nodes as the plant goes down. All of our nodes got shortened up, so our corn plants are a lot shorter than what they normally are. Is that a problem? And the answer is it kind of depends. I mean, if you think of corn in simulation to a kite, if you don't have as long of a string or as big of a kite for the wind to catch, the corn plant isn't gonna blow and start to lean over and start to lodge or break off come harvest. But what about the ears being shorter? Well, that's kind of the concern. Because the plants are shorter and the nodes are shorter, our ears are right now shorter and closer to the ground. So it might be a little bit tricky for us to get the combine out here and try to actually get these ears of corn in the combine. But where I'm sitting right now, it looks like the ears are a good 3 feet off the ground, which is more than high enough for us to get in here with the combine. But if I do see any spots where it looks like the ears are really low to the ground and we might struggle to get them in, I'll be sure to point those out. But that's one thing I'm noticing so far. The other thing I'm seeing out here in the field, since all of our tassels are shot out of all of the corn plants, as you can see, what the tassel does is it starts to shed pollen. That pollen falls either because of wind or just naturally falls, and it starts to pollinate these silks on the ear of corn. So like this one here, you can see there's a couple brown silks. Once the silk, which is the little string part at the top of the ear, turns brown, that means we have pollinated and we have put a kernel on each ear of corn. One thing that I always think is cool and important to point out is that each one of these hairs on the ear of corn, so those silks that all form up here at the tip of the ear, those all come down and meet a single kernel. So however many kernels are on this ear, that's how many hairs or little silk strands there are. And each one of those needs to get pollinated in order for that kernel to grow. So as you can tell, this one, a lot of them have been pollinated. We're maybe missing just a couple here up towards the tip that either haven't been pollinated yet, or maybe some of those silks got cut off from insects, which I'll hit on more later because I have traps set out in some of our fields so we can find some of those insects. Made it to the second spot of this field where there's significant water damage. As you can tell, I'm basically standing in the middle of the open. All this corn got washed away. An interesting point about corn, because it's a grass, all corn tassels at the same time, so it doesn't matter. You know, we got some 8 foot tall corn back there. This plant right here is maybe about 4 or 5 feet tall. Doesn't matter. It all tassels at the exact same time, no matter how tall it is. And a corn plant like this, once it tassels, it is done getting taller and it is done sending roots into the ground. It's putting all of its effort, all of its energy, all those nutrients that we feed it into the ear, which is a good thing. But if we can't get out here and harvest right away, sometimes that turns into a bad thing. But just wanted to show you, here's the first damage. Obviously we have a fair amount of weeds that grew in here, couldn't get back in and spray, but I'm gonna keep heading back. Now I'm at another spot where it looks like the water damaged our field. You can see the water's obviously gone, but it's all these corn stalks that washed in here that just matted down the corn and killed our corn. We'll see how far it goes back here. A lot of people call corn like this, I guess, zebra corn, because it's got these different colors from where those leaves were in the whorl. So the whorl is right here, or the top growing point of the plant, and the moisture got in there. This is definitely not going to be fun to come back with the combine or with the digger because it's just gonna plug everything up. This ain't pretty. Here's what I wanted to show you. This is what this spot of the field looked like a month ago. And now here is what it looks like today. Surprisingly, all this corn has come back up. It's all standing up. It doesn't look great. You can tell it's the same spot because we still have that massive hole there, but I am shocked that all this corn grew back up after the rain beat over it for so long. There is no question where the water ran and we weren't able to spray this corn again before it got too tall. There are a fair amount of weeds, which I am not in love with, and this will not be very much fun this fall since we don't like to run weeds through the combine and just spit out more weed seed, but yeah, there's a lot of weeds out here. Wow, is some of this corn short. Yeah, that tassel barely touches my chin there. Also, you can tell it's just a lot lighter color green, some of the shorter plants. Probably part of a nitrogen deficiency. All the water washed all the nutrients out of this spot. Not expecting a whole lot out of some of these shorter ones. Now I crouched back down in the shade because it's getting hot walking. The field's a mile long. But remember when I said that these silks all need to get pollinated by the tassel way at the top of the plant for kernels to grow on the ear? Well, there's one insect that likes to eat and feed on these silks to prevent that from happening. And that insect is a corn rootworm beetle. And I did find a couple out here in the field, but what we like to do on our farm is we set these yellow sticky traps out when the corn's just about to pollinate, like this one is here, and see if we can catch any corn rootworm beetles. So as you can tell, I caught one little black bug on there pretty recently since he's still squirming around. It's not a corn rootworm beetle, but the thought is by keeping this close to the silks on the corn plant, we're able to gauge how much corn rootworm pressure we have, and it helps make seed planting decisions for next year because we need to decide which traits we need for how much corn rootworm pressure that we have. This was our first stop on the crop tour. Honestly, I know some people are gonna ask, what do you think for a yield estimate? I couldn't tell you. I couldn't even come close. I mean, we got spots where we got soybeans planted. We got spots in the back there where you saw those corn stalk residue. That's gonna be 0. I don't know. I mean, this will be the last field we'll combine. That I know for sure because we have really easy road access and we can load the semis, the wagons, whatever we need to load from the actual field without having to bring anything in the field. So we'll leave this one to the end, but now let's go check another field, pull some ears, see what we got. Here we are now out in our cornfield where we have 40 acres of soybeans planted. Honestly, the beans themselves don't look that bad. They're just really short for this time of year. I had a fair amount of weeds that moved in here because of all the bare soil, but we sprayed in here this week, got a lot of those burned off. We're gonna need some more warmer weather and a late frost to have any hope of these beans putting pods on them. There is still a large amount of doubt in my mind that I'm gonna end up losing money planting soybeans out in this field because of all the equipment cost, the cost to spray again. But honestly, I believe that we're improving the biology out in the soil, and I brought our temperature gun along to try to prove it to you guys. The way that this temperature gun works is there's a beam that gets shot down. When I point it at the ground here, it beeps, gives me a temperature reading. So what I wanted to do, and I thought it'd be very interesting, is to show you what the temperature is of just black soil here, where the soybeans are really short and not covering the ground. And then we'll go in the cornfield, take a temperature reading, and discuss. We'll get our first test. Read that, 91.2 degrees is the soil surface temperature. Now in the corn, 69.4 degrees. Clearly there's about a 20-degree difference in ground temperature between where we have a bunch of shade from a standing crop and where there's no shade, like over there in the soybeans. And if you think about that, the biology in our soil, so the little microorganisms that actually make up a portion of the soil, do you think they would rather be 90 blazing degrees in the middle of the summer? Or do you think they'd rather be in soil like in here, where the corn plants are shading them and only be 70 degrees? I know me, myself, I'd rather be 70 degrees than 90 degrees, which is why we planted those soybeans out here to hopefully cover the ground, keep our microbiology in the soil alive, and honestly, just build up our soil health for the years of farming ahead of our family. All right, let's find a couple of ears that we can pick to shell to see what things are looking like. This one. You get one more. This one looks good. The corn in this field is without a doubt quite a bit taller and greener, at least in this spot that I'm standing. Part of it is it's a different hybrid, different genetics. Also, part of it is that this field was planted 2 days after that last field we were just in. I don't know, I like the look of the taller corn, but if we get one of those late season windstorms, maybe this isn't the thing to be so happy about right now. All right, let's see what we got here. It's a little bit like opening up a Christmas Day present. You're never sure what you're gonna get. First reaction? I don't know. I'll let you guys have your first reaction first. Here's the results. In comparison to the last 2 years, I can't say I'm overly impressed with the size of the ears at this point, but I would say one thing: smaller ears, smaller kernel size doesn't always mean it's going to be less bushels. One thing you can pick up on is test weight, and that's what we're starting to pack on now the rest of the growing season, is we're starting to harden these kernels, because right now they're just really juicy. So we're going to start hardening the kernels, packing sugar inside all of them. Who knows, maybe we'll have really good test weight again for yield. Your guess is as good as mine. We have seen enough corn for the day. It's now time to turn our crop tour over to some soybean acres. So I'll meet you guys out at one of our soybean fields. We'll start with one that we replanted 3 times, just to show you what those soybeans are looking like for starters. Made it to our worst drowned out field with soybeans. This field was ugly after that 13-inch rain. I mean, I think I replanted 60 acres of soybeans out here a little over a month ago now. So I'll show you guys what these are starting to look like. They are small, I would say that. But I am a lot more optimistic about these now than I was a month ago, because they're not looking half bad. And if you compare them, as I'm walking up to some of the soybeans that didn't get drowned out, you'll be able to tell they're a little bit bigger in size. Like this is one that got way planted back in June. And these are the ones that were planted a month ago in the beginning of July. I mean, the size difference between a month on the soybeans, my ones are catching up. Another thing we need to check out here in the soybean field, just like the corn field, remember I mentioned those corn rootworm beetles that can bite on the silks of the corn ears and prevent kernels from growing? Well, oddly enough, Mother Nature wins again, and those corn rootworm beetles are smart enough to know to lay their eggs in soybean fields, hoping that there'll be cornfields next year. So I put a beetle trap out here in one of our soybean fields. Looks like we caught a couple common horseflies and some really small gnats is about all, which is a good sign. It means our corn rootworm pressure, at least right now, this stage of the game, is not very high. So another management decision we're keeping in the back of our mind for next year. We're just getting at the point of the year also in our soybean fields where aphids are starting to move in. Aphids are really small insects that start to eat and feed off the leaves of the soybean plants, harming yield. I'm gonna see if we can find some. Here you can see some of those aphids we have on our soybeans, just starting to pop up on our newest leaf growth. The standard for when you need to treat your field for aphids, at least what we use and follow, is 200 to 250 aphids per plant. They're really hard to spot and try to count, but we're going ahead and spraying all of our fields currently. We hired some planes. They're also going to be putting down some fungicide, because our bean crop, honestly, for how short the beans are, I'll show you guys the next field, I'm pretty optimistic on the beans. This here is probably one of our better fields of soybeans. The only complaint I have is I screwed up the planting them. I got them too close to the ditch, but ignore that. Otherwise, these beans are waist high, nice, lush beans. See if we can find any aphids. These ones are farther ahead, so they're probably not as bad because aphids like the newly infested beans, but I have another beetle trap set up here. We'll go check on that. See if we caught any beetles here in the last 24 hours. Not looking like it on that side, and that side none either. You can see here in the field, we're starting to get some pretty big cracks in here. The beans aren't starting to show any signs of water stress, but we're gonna need some moisture to add some size to our beans. So we're definitely praying for a little bit of rain here. Never thought we'd be saying that a month ago, but things have really dried off. It's crazy to me that so far year to date, we've had 23 inches of rain. In a normal year, we have 27 inches. A month ago, we had 3 foot of water running over this bridge. Now there's not even 3 feet of water down left in this creek. But that's gonna do it for today's crop video. We're gonna head back to the shop, start tinkering on some things on the combine. Today's to-do list on the combine is pretty short. What I need to do is this morning I picked up $700 worth in 4 air filters for the combine. Get these all open, switch them out with the old ones. That way those are all ready to go. This is always a good feeling when you change the filters and you write the dates on it. Last year it looks like we changed it the 21st of August. Today's the 6th. Makes you feel like you're 2 weeks ahead. Whoa. Well, with that is about all I have for today's video. But wait, I am curious what your guys' thoughts are on today's crop update. Would you want to see another video like that in the future before harvest? Let me know that down below in the comments. Otherwise, that's it for today's video. Thanks so much for watching. See ya in the next one.